topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hi, good morning, San Antonio. Welcome to another Ask the Experts. For the last 16 years, we have brought you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. We got a letter the other day, and it's really what this program is about. And it's a fairly long letter, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's about our first expert. A young lady from San Antonio wrote us that she's trying to get her husband to come in and see the law firm of Lance Drury, but he's so embarrassed. But we're going to get him around that. But that's not the part that I wanted to share with you. The part is, she said, I have listened to your shows for the last 3 months. And you remind me so much of my father. You're a hard worker and you're a good man. And it was the sweetest letter. Let me welcome you to that great man, that hard worker. Good morning, Attorney Lance Drury.
Good morning, Steve. It's always great to be with you.
How about that for a letter? And I'm sure you understand that people are embarrassed probably to come in to see you, and they don't have to be, because you're like the no judgment zone. And we hope that this show will get her husband. He's actually listening this morning. We'll get him to come in and see you. Tell people about your firm.
Well, Steve, we have 4 offices, soon to be 5. We just started a lease in Houston, Texas. So here we come, Houston. That's the next frontier. My attorneys in San Antonio are going to be managing that office. So we have 5 offices now. We have over 1,000 clients at any one time. We help businesses and individuals with their tax problems with the IRS. And I just want to say, that was a great compliment from that woman when she said, you remind me of her father, because
Yes.
Several years ago, I had a client. She wished me happy Father's Day at the end of the consult. And I said, well, I'm not a father. And she goes, well, you are to all of us.
Oh, my gosh.
And so, it's great to hear things like that. That's why I continue to do this. That's why I still work Saturday and Sunday mornings, because I have a moral obligation, Steve, to help as many people as possible.
So I keep hearing rumors that with the shutdown, that the IRS is sort of shut down right now. Is that true?
No, that is not true. They've probably maybe 50% of their workforce is furloughed, but the automated collection system is open. The automated collection system is still issuing levy notices. And I found out yesterday from my attorney in Orlando, Florida, that he got a phone call from a revenue officer. Most of the revenue officers were furloughed, but I guess some of them are now working. So we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if this shutdown goes on into November. When it first started, I said, well, it's going to take 3 or 4 weeks. It doesn't look like either side is budging much. So,
Yes.
But I think eventually somebody's going to have to cave. We got to get the government open back up. And we got to start helping people again with their tax problems. And we've been doing that. Things are up this month. We had record revenue months, Steve, in May and in June, and then we broke that record in August. And normally it's slow in the summer, but not this year. And the reason is because the IRS was sending out those levy notices left and right. And that's when people call us, when they get those dirty letters from the IRS, those nasty notices. That's when people call and want to take care of their problem.
Lance, your show is so easy to do. And the reason why it's so easy is we get so many emails from listeners who have questions that I've got so many questions here. Here's Alamo Heights, Universal City, San Antonio, downtown San Antonio, some of the Kerrville. I mean, there's a lot. Here's San Marcos, Converse, Kirby. We just get letters from everywhere about your show. So it makes my job so easy because I just read their letters and you just, you don't even hesitate. You just answer their question and it really shows that you know what you're doing. So, hey, let's get started.
Okay, Steve, let's get going.
Drake in Alamo Heights. He said, I heard about your show and I was wondering, what is the difference between a lien and a levy?
Okay, Steve, the difference is that a levy is an actual seizure of property or assets, but a lien is not. What happens is if you owe tax liability to the IRS will place a lien in the Recorder of Deeds office in the county in which you live. Now, it's not an actual seizure of property, but if you go to sell your home or any real estate that you may own, that lien has to be satisfied at the time of sale. A levy, on the other hand, is an actual seizure, and the most common are wages. They can take up to 90% of your take-home pay. They can take 100% of your 1099, or they wipe out bank accounts. Or if you're old enough to draw Social Security, they can take up to 15% of your Social Security before it's deposited into your bank account. But guess what? Once it's in the account, they can take the whole thing. So you want to take care of these problems before you get levied. I got to tell you a story about that, Steve. Several years ago, a guy walked into my St. Louis office and he looked like he was half dead. So when he sat down, I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "I've been sleeping in my car for over a year because the IRS is leaving me $200 to live on every 2 weeks." And so the problem was at that point, he didn't have the money to hire me or anybody else to get his problem solved. So, you don't want to wait too long. You get those nasty letters from the IRS, give us a call. We'll stand between you and the IRS. We'll protect your interest. We'll protect your income. I am the liberation architect, Steve. Most tax attorneys talk numbers. I talk financial freedom. As I said on an early morning, Sunday morning talk show in St. Louis several years ago, I'm the guy who saves Fay Ray from the clutches of King Kong.
Ha! I love that.
So, this is what we do. We've got 16 employees. I'm 72 and we're still growing the business. We're going into Houston and hopefully beyond because, like I said earlier, I have a moral obligation to help as many people as possible. And that's what I want to keep doing. That's what keeps me going. That's my purpose in this world.
I got to tell you, this is selfish reasons. I hope you come to Florida soon because we could sure use your firm here in Florida.
Well, let me tell you, Steve, here's the game plan. I'm not a guy that looks for the next day or the next week or the next month. I've got plans for 3 years to 5 years down the road. And guess where we're coming next, Steve? Miami, Florida.
Oh,
Miami.
right. It's Florida's our biggest for our shows. Our second biggest, of course, California's our biggest. Texas
Well, and
is
then I'm going to
second.
Los
Uh,
Angeles after that.
where?
Los Angeles.
Oh my gosh, unbelievable. Let me get to these questions. Here's Greg in Universal City. He wants to know, can a lien ever drop off?
Yes. Now, historically, the lien is supposed to be released 6 to 9 months before the collection statute expires. What that means is the IRS does not have forever to collect the tax. The general rule is they can collect the tax up to 10 years after the tax is assessed. However, there's so many things that can stop the running of the statute on collections that for each period in which a taxpayer has tax liability, we have to calculate what's the last day the IRS can collect. Now, the problem is because the IRS is so screwed up, they're so far behind, they're making more mistakes than ever. A lot of those liens are not being released when they should be. And so they're just not doing it. And the problem is those are self-releasing liens. But don't tell the title companies that. The title companies are so scared of the IRS that their people are having to hire me to go in and to get a formal release from the IRS before the title companies will do anything concerning the sale of the property. So, people are going to have to hire us more and more to get those liens released when they should have automatically been released because the IRS is shorthanded. They don't have enough people working for them. They don't get funded properly. And of course, everybody likes that so that they don't come after them. But the flip side of that is when you do have a problem, there's no service. It takes forever to get the problem resolved just because they're so far behind.
Mark in New Brunswick wants to know, do you go with your clients on audits?
Absolutely. In fact, we don't want the clients at the audit. The problem is those audits can go criminal, and that's what you hire an attorney for. The attorney goes in your stead to take care of all these things. So we really don't like taking our clients to audits. We want our clients as far away as possible from the IRS. That's what you hired us for. And in fact, I have to tell you, since we're talking about San Antonio, I had a guy hire me down there, and my two attorneys rented a car and went to his ranch because he was being audited by the IRS 2 full days. They wanted to look at the premises. And this is going to happen to a lot of ranchers down there. What they're doing is his ranch for a number of years has been operating at a loss, where they're not going to allow him to take that as a loss. It's called a hobby loss. And once you have several years where that ranch is not making any money, they're no longer going to allow you to take those losses against your other income. So that's something that's really going to be big. In fact, we may put a billboard. We've never gone into the billboard business. I've been approached several times out of St. Louis to do that, but I've never done it. But we may put a sign up down there so that all those ranchers that are going to get audited know who to call to help them out.
Yeah, exactly. Robert in Kerrville, I know where Kerrville is. He wants to know, what are red flags the IRS look for in your taxes?
Well, I mean, if you haven't paid your taxes, that's what they're going to come after you for. Now, the other thing, and maybe he's talking about in terms of being audited, if you have business expenses, which seem to be extremely large, you're going to be automatically flagged for an audit. Or if you're not reporting all your income, you can be audited for that. So those are the types of things. Too many expenses, not reporting enough income. Those are the red flags for an audit. But, if you just have tax liability, you never know. They're a bureaucracy. I've seen people that haven't filed for 20 years and never got one notice from the IRS. And then I see people that get other notices right away. So you never know. There's no rhyme nor reason to everything that the IRS does. That's the main thing you have to understand. And right now, a layperson wouldn't know this. If you called them up, you wouldn't know if what they were telling you was correct or not. But we know because this is all we do every single day. And those people in the automated collection system that you talk to, and you'll get a different person every time you call, they're not properly trained. They don't know what they're doing. I even had one of their supervisors admit to me, and this has been several years ago, that they weren't getting the proper training. So when we get somebody that they don't know what they're talking about, or they're extremely aggressive, I just tell them I got somebody waiting in the lobby. I got to go. And then I call right back until I get somebody who's reasonable to work with and knows what they're talking about.
Well, it's scary that some of the IRS agents don't know a lot about, especially with all the new tax laws. Emily in San Antonio, I read on Facebook your show was coming on. I'm so glad I found your show. What are the negatives if I tried to negotiate with the IRS myself? What a good question.
Well, here's the biggest problem, Emily, and this is why you don't want to do it. And I know this because people think this is easy. They can do this on their own. So they'll call the IRS, they'll set up an agreement. It's always for the full amount, including every last penny of the penalties and interest. And then they come to me and the first words out of their mouth are, I can't afford the monthly payment. And I go, then why did you agree to do it? And they'll tell me the IRS said this is what I had to do. And that's not right. They take advantage of lay people. This is all based on your ability to pay this back. 85 to 90% of our clients never pay back the full amount. 10 to 15% never pay a dime, but it's a lot of work for you. It's a lot of work for us because we have to go through financial statements, bank statements, credit card statements, debit card statements, cash receipts, because we have to prove up certain categories of expenses to the satisfaction of the IRS. So to try to do this on your own is not a good idea. It's like talking to the cops if you're charged with a crime. They are not your friend. They are not there except for one thing. They don't care how you got into this. They don't care if you had a lot of medical expenses or you're taking care of your parents or you've had a lot of hospital bills for your child. All they care about is collecting as much money from you as possible.
Plus, Lance, I think they all went to the school of intimidation. They know how to intimidate you.
That's exactly true. And the worst ones are your revenue officers. Those are the guys that are just going to wipe you out and take no prisoners. And what happens is when people have a revenue officer, they'll send what's called a summary of taxpayer contact to the taxpayer, and it's all kinds of financial information that they want. And they'll come to me because they end up getting levied, and they go, well, I sent them everything they asked for. No, they didn't, because those forms and this process is confusing. It's complicated for the average individual. And so they're not going to call them up and say, hey, I need more. They just go out and levy them. Steve, when I was a small town lawyer, I spend 15 hours a year just keeping up with everything. With the IRS, I and all of my attorneys, I have 8 other attorneys right now. Hopefully the day comes when we've got about 15 attorneys in my employ. We spend a minimum of 50 to 100 hours a year or more just keeping up on this because they're a bureaucracy. Everything changes. First week of November, we have a 3-day webinar. We'll get more than 20 hours in of continuing legal education just from that one webinar. And so It's a lot of work. We know the ins and outs. We know how to navigate the IRS maze. Sometimes you have to go to this department to solve this problem. Then you got to jump to another department to solve the rest of the problem. So you've got to have a professional that does this and does this every single day. Steve, we're a 4.8 out of 5 in St. Louis on Google reviews. And in Nashville, we're a 4.9 out of 5 in Nashville, Tennessee for Google reviews. I've been featured in national publications. I've been quoted in Forbes magazine. You can tell by looking at me, Steve, I've been around the block once or twice. So, we're going to keep up the hard work on behalf of delinquent taxpayers.
You know what, Lance? I guess I'm an old softy, but these people who haven't filed taxes, owe money to the IRS, are like a fish out of water. They know nothing about the workings of the IRS. And I think it's so sad that people think that they can handle it themselves. And I've learned from you that a lot of times when they talk to the IRS themselves, they get themselves in deeper trouble. You know all the laws. You know what to respond to them about. And it's so sad, these people who try to handle it themselves. Here's a question right here from David in Universal City. He said, should I file my taxes even if I can't afford to pay?
Absolutely. And here's why. If you don't file on time, now, of course, if you file an extension, you're okay until October. But, if you don't file timely, there's a failure to file penalty. It's 5% a month for the first 5 months that you don't file, and then it maxes out at 25%. So if you've got a $10,000 tax liability, now it's already $12,500 before we even talk about the penalty for failure to pay and the interest. So absolutely, you want to file no matter what, because I've seen people, because they didn't file and waited years because they didn't have the money to pay, thinking they didn't want to get on their radar, tens of thousands of dollars just in the failure to file penalty.
Lance, your show goes by so fast. Tell people again how they can reach your office.
Go to lancedrurylaw.com and you'll see all the phone numbers for the various offices. And, you can call us up. There's a way you can set up an appointment right on the website yourself. At least it puts you through a qualifying sequence first. And then if you qualify for the free consult, it'll set you up for a time. But we're here. We're in San Antonio. We love San Antonio. And we're going to keep growing the business, Steve. I'm going to keep going on to the end.
My most beloved expert, Lance, thank you. And we'll see you this month. You're going to be doing your Missouri and Tennessee show. I believe it's a week from Friday. Yeah. We'll see you then. Lance, thanks so much. Have a wonderful week. God bless.
The same to you, Steve. I just love doing your show.
We'll be right back. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.